YouTube. So you're thinking about applying to pharmacy school. Here are 5 things that you should know before you do so. Stay tuned. All right, so if you're thinking about applying to pharmacy school, the first thing I think you should know is that you should know that currently pharmacy is somewhat of a saturated market. If you compare pharmacy 10 years ago to pharmacy now, it's clearly been a decline in terms of demand for pharmacists. In pharmacy school, we go to the pharmacy career fair and pharmacy recruitment events. When we go to pharmacy recruitment events, and if you go to those pharmacy recruitment events, sometimes half the companies at those events are not even hiring pharmacists currently. There's just been so many pharmacy schools that have opened and that are producing pharmacists that, pharmacists are not really as in demand as we used to be, especially in the retail setting. So if you're thinking about applying to pharmacy school, you need to know that, okay, it's not just going to be, oh, I graduate and instantly I have a job. You're going to have to look around and search. Work is just not guaranteed currently in our field. So that's the first thing that you should consider and weigh in to whether or not you're going to apply to pharmacy school. Second thing you should know, so because of the saturation of the pharmacy market, the second thing you want to think about before applying to pharmacy school is whether or not you're more of an introvert or an outgoing person. Because the pharmacy market is saturated, you're going to have to do some networking and you're going to have to become more social. If you're not very social, you're going to have to become more social and you're going to have to network to find employment in the pharmacy business, due to the fact that companies are not rushing and looking for pharmacists like they used to. So for you to get a job, you're going to have to network, you're going to have to get to know people, and that old saying about it's not what you know, it's who you know is actually very true in our field. So you want to get to know people who can put in a good word for you, talk to hiring managers, basically interact on social media, join LinkedIn, and really put yourself out there to apply for jobs so that way you can actually find work when you graduate from pharmacy school. That's the second thing that you should think about. Number 3, the third thing that you should know before applying to pharmacy school is you should know that the type of learning that you'll be doing in pharmacy school is more memorization driven than concept driven. Now, I say that because maybe some of you are thinking, well, pharmacy, that you have to take a lot of biology, you have to take a lot of chemistry, you have to take math in order for you to apply and get into pharmacy school. So you might think like, oh, well, this is almost like becoming a scientist, but not really. In pharmacy school, you're not being trained to become a scientist. You're becoming trained to become a clinician. Most of what you're going to learn is you're going to have to memorize a lot of drugs, and you're going to have to memorize a lot of side effects. So those are the 2 main things that you'll be learning in pharmacy school. You'll be learning drugs and side effects. You will learn some fundamental science, like you'll learn about different drug targets. You'll learn about mechanism of action in pharmacy school, but be prepared to get your flashcards ready and memorize that. So if you're not a memorizer, if you're thinking, hey man, I'm more of a concept person, I like to answer fundamental science question, you might actually want to consider applying to graduate school to get a PhD instead of applying to pharmacy school to get a PharmD. It's something you should consider before applying to pharmacy school. So number 4, pharmacy school is more patient focused than science focused. Very similar to number 3, but here what I want you to get out of number 4 is that you want to think about the types of questions and the type of problems that you want to solve. In pharmacy school, the problems that you solve are patient focused problems more so than science focused problems. For example, let's say you read an article about a drug, and in this article, you read that 100 patients were treated with this drug and 10% of these patients ended up having bone fractures, right? They had which was a side effect of that drug. Now, think about if you read that, what would be your follow-up question? If your follow-up question is, man, I wonder what is it about this drug that caused fractures. We should dive more into the mechanism of action, maybe do some more research on this drug to see what is it about this drug that would cause bone fracture. if that was your follow-up question, you're thinking more like a scientist and more of like a PhD. From a pharmacist perspective, their follow-up question would be, okay, what type of patient had bone fractures? And how does this new information impact the way that this drug would be prescribed in the clinic? You see? Which are two different ways of thinking, right? One is more patient focused. We're thinking, well, if this drug caused a side effect, should I recommend this drug? Should we treat patients with this drug? And what type of patients should we treat with this drug? What should we monitor? Should we do bone scans to decide whether or not we should treat patients with this drug or no? So if that's your follow-up question and you're thinking on that level, then you're thinking more like a pharmacist. And I think that applying the pharmacy school would be a better fit for you if your line of thinking is more patient focused. But if you're thinking more of like, man, I want to learn more about the drug and why the drug behaves the way that it behaves, you're thinking more like a PhD scientist. And that's definitely something that you should know and consider before applying to pharmacy school. Number five, the fifth thing that you should know before applying to pharmacy school is you should know yourself, right? You should know who you are, because you want to go into pharmacy school with a good game plan. In order for you to develop a good game plan, you need to understand the depth of the field of pharmacy. Because pharmacy is not just Walgreens and CVS, okay? As a pharmacist, you can work in a hospital, you can work in a clinic, you can work in a long-term care facility, you can work as a drug inspector for the Board of Pharmacy or for DHEC, which are basically agencies that regulate and monitor the field of pharmacy. You have so many different avenues that you can go in the field of pharmacy. You want to learn about the different areas that pharmacists can work in, and you want to know yourself, know what type of personality you have. Are you more a people person, a social person? Are you more of an introvert person? So that way you can come into pharmacy school having very clear direction in terms of where you're trying to go. For example, if you decide to work in a mail order pharmacy, there's very little patient interaction. You're not really interacting with people. You're not really counseling people. You're kind of just monitoring prescriptions and you're filling prescriptions all day, basically. All right, so if you're more of a hermit, you're more of a person who just likes to go to work, have a clear routine, do what you got to do, go in and get out, then like a mail order type would be perfect for you. Whereas if you're more of a, I really want to be more hands-on. I want to talk to patients. I want to counsel patients. I also want to be a consultant for physicians. Then you might be thinking, you might be thinking about becoming a clinical pharmacist, where you would have to do a residency, right? You have to graduate from pharmacy school and you would have to do a residency at a hospital or a clinic. And once you finish your year of residency, or you can do up to 2 years of residency, then you can become a clinical pharmacist, where you're basically working with patients directly. You're in a hospital or clinical setting, and you're also a consultant for the physicians, and you're helping them make sure that the right patients get the right drugs, right, at the right time. So the different areas of pharmacy is definitely something that you should do research on, and you should always be considering, well, does this fit who I am as a person? Because you might find out that, hey, you're more of an academic than you are a clinician, or or you can even find out that, hey, I'm more of a business person than I am a clinician, and you might want to open up your own pharmacy and to run a pharmacy more so than actually becoming a pharmacist. All right, so the earlier you get to know yourself, the earlier you know what you want, the better for you. And I hope these tips were helpful. If you have any questions, if you guys have any questions about becoming a pharmacist, specific questions that I didn't answer in this video, just go ahead, leave it in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button. Keep watching, and be easy. Later.